What's going on, everybody? And as always, I hope you're having a great day and an even better weekend. Here we are, Sunday, and today we're going to talk about the TRD Pro Tundra and 3 things I would have done differently. Now, before we get into this discussion, I just want to say I absolutely love the TRD Pro trim level. The first time I saw it, when it first came out, I knew it's something that I needed. I was a big fan of the Rock Warrior, but I never bought a Rock Warrior, and I don't know why. I was just in between things. I bought a Tundra in 2009, and then the Rock Warrior came out in 2010. So I was kind of in that spot where I couldn't just jump out of the 2009 into a Rock Warrior. And then I tried a couple Jeeps there in 2012, yada yada. By the time I came back to Tundra, it was 2014 model year. But I really like the Rock Warrior because of what it was. You know, it was body colored. You guys know him. Hashtag no chrome. It was body colored. It was a little different. It had, a BFG all-terrain tire on it. It had the TRD forged wheels. It was just little subtle differences that made it nice, in my opinion, and it really drew to me. So when the TRD Pro came out, I was kind of in the same situation. I just bought a 2014 Tundra. And in August 2014, they introduced the 2015 TRD Pro, and I shook my head and I was like, are you serious? So what I did was, I rode the 2014 until I could find a dealer, and that's when I met Frank Ford to get that actually I got a 2016 TRD Pro. So I was in the 2014 for about a year and a half, and then it was time. We finally found a TRD Pro Tundra. So don't get me wrong with this list. I love the TRD Pro Tundra. I actually miss my TRD Pro Tundra. Nothing against this beautiful truck. Don't listen. I love you. I love you, truck. You know that. But I miss the TRD Pro Tundra for what it was, for the amount of work that went into getting it. I started the channel with it, so it holds a place in my heart. And one day when this channel blows up, I am going to find that exact TRD Pro and buy it back from whoever owns it, so it could be forever immortalized here on the channel and in my heart, as always. So anyway, on to the list, what we're going to do here. If I was doing the TRD Pro, okay, I would have done 3 things differently. Now, you guys who are watching this, there's 3 different types of people who are watching this. Number 1, you are a TRD Pro owner and you're ready to hear this list and give me some feedback. Number 2, you're a Tundra owner who was going to buy a TRD Pro Tundra, but you went a different direction, and I can't wait to hear your reasons for that. Number 3, you don't like anything about me or Toyota, and you just stumbled upon this video. Welcome. So here are the 3 things I would have done differently for the TRD Pro trim level on the Toyota Tundra. In no particular order, the first thing I would have done differently on the TRD Pro Tundra is more options. Now, again, I know what the TRD Pro is. It starts its life as an SR5, and then they add parts. You get the Bilstein piggyback shocks. You get the TRD tuned front springs, which gives it that leveled 1.5 to 2 inch lift. You get the black TRD wheels. You get body color, everything. You get the TRD grille. You get the TRD dual exhaust. You get the stamps in the side of the bed. Inside, you get a couple different cues that say TRD Pro with some red stitching. You get the blacked out front headlights. Trying to remember everything. Skid plate, you get the TRD Pro skid plate, but it is an SR5 with all that stuff that makes it a TRD Pro. What I would have done there is kind of what the Rock Warrior did, per se, is there was a Rock Warrior, kind of a Tundra grade SR5 type Rock Warrior, and then there was a limited one that gave you more options, like a sunroof, just kind of upgraded interior stuff. There was leather. I would have done it, not necessarily like a limited like that. I probably would have done it where you could just add options to the truck to make it more of what you want. One of the biggest things I hear from TRD Pro owners, I've met a lot of them through this channel. Specifically, I love talking to them because I live that TRD Pro life. So when people get out of TRD Pros, I want to hear why and see if we have the same kind of idea. But some of the things I hear from them is it just didn't have enough in it. There's people who came from other brands. They got themselves a TRD Pro because they love the look of it. They were in it for a year or less, and they're like, I had to get out of it and get into a different kind of Tundra because it just didn't have enough in it or didn't have enough to it as far as features. And again, I understand what the truck is. It is an SR5 at the end of the day. But if they could have gave you some packages here and there that could have added to what the truck could be, I think you would make a lot of people happier. Unless you are up in Canada. Oh, Canada! Where their TRD Pros come with blind spot monitoring, cross traffic alert, parking sensors, and a moonroof. Now that right there is a sweet setup for the TRD Pro Tundra. And that is on the Crew Max. The double cab comes with all that except the sunroof. So Canada, that setup is what we wanted here in the US. But I just wish it could have been kind of like the Tundra is now in other trim levels, where when you go on Toyota.com, there's actually packages that you could buy. There's things you can add. I would like to see a little bit more of that, just a little bit more options. It was a special truck. So I wouldn't be mad if there was a few more options here and there. Now, number two, I know each and every one of you TRD Pro owners are going to agree with me here. Number two, I wish they didn't use the TRD Pro unique colors the next model year on all trim levels. Now, everyone that owns a TRD Pro just looked at the screen and went, yes! I know, because we talk about this a lot. I'm not saying never use these unique colors. I'm just saying gap it a little bit so it makes what you're buying even more unique. And that's the whole point of the TRD Pro. It's unique. It's different. What I would have done, so let's go over the years. The 2015 TRD Pro had the Inferno color, which, man, I really like that Inferno color. That was good looking and definitely something you would notice coming down the road. Right into 2016, which was the Quicksand, another thing that was good looking and you knew was coming down the road. 2017, Cement, probably the most sought after color of all time in Toyota. Everybody loves that Cement. And let's not forget, I passed up a Cement TRD Pro Crew Max. I actually had one built. And now TRD Pro Ronin has it, so go check out his channel. He's all over Instagram too. He has that exact truck I had built. I had it built, and before it came to Frank's dealership, I ended up buying this one, so he bought my truck that came in. But anyway, again, I'm not mad that they're going to use the colors eventually. That's cool. But if 2017, you have this gorgeous Cement TRD Pro, it's something rare, it's something unique, you look at it, you wow. And then in 2018, you could buy like an SR5 TRD in Cement. They should have gapped it more so it was more unique, more special. They probably could have made some more money that way, to be honest. But that is one thing that has always annoyed me about it, is how quickly they come out the next year with that color on all trims. And that's kind of where this argument goes of 3 things I would have done differently. That's probably number one. You gotta keep it unique. And that kind of leads right into the third thing I would do differently. Make the TRD Pro different from other Tundras. I know, again, TRD Pro owners were like, yes! So I hope all you are happy with this video. The TRD Pro, again, was an SR5 that was built up. It was cool. But I'm going to contradict myself hardcore here. We did the Platinum Pro project. The point of the project was there wasn't enough, here you go, there wasn't enough options in the TRD Pro. So I wanted to take the highest level trim with all the luxury features and turn it into a TRD Pro as much as I could. Meaning adding all the parts. The suspension, the skid plate, the dual exhaust, the grille. Well, I didn't do the TRD wheels. I failed. But, you know, things like that. The point of the project was to make a Platinum a Pro, all right? And it wasn't hard to do. You could go on to Sparks Parts. You could go on to any Toyota dealership. You could walk in to your local Toyota dealership and say, oh, I want to build the TRD Pro Tundra, so I need all these parts. And they'll sit there and be like, yeah, cool. All right, let's do it. And in one side of the coin, I think Toyota was awesome for doing that, because the TRD Pro was so hard to get at one point, and they wanted the customers to be happy. So what they did was they did that like a Pro project, and they showed you all the parts you could get to turn your Tundra into a TRD Pro without it being a TRD Pro. Now, one thing that did was make all of the TRD Pro owners mad, especially the ones that had to go out, search, find, grind to get that TRD Pro. They do all this work, they get a TRD Pro, then they pull in their driveway and their neighbor who has an SR5 TRD Tundra did all the work while he was gone. So it's one of those things. I wish the truck would have been a little more unique, kind of its own thing. I mean, I'm going to use this analogy here, but it's like the way the F-150 is to the Ford Raptor. Okay, the Ford Raptor is on its own frame. It's a wider truck. It has all its own cues that are different from the regular Ford F-150, making the Raptor something very special. And the TRD Pro is special. I just think if they made it more of a unique truck, the demand would have been even higher. They would have been clamoring for that truck more than they were now. again, there was a high demand for the truck, but people would try to get the truck, and then they'd be like, wait a minute, I could just buy any Tundra and build it into a Pro? Okay. And a lot of the customers went that direction. So all the parts started flying off the shelf to where you couldn't get it because everyone was building their truck into a TRD Pro, making the TRD Pro less unique. You see what I'm getting at here? The TRD Pro, having owned one, and I was one of those people that had to grind and claw to get the TRD Pro that I wanted. All right, it wasn't easy when I was going after them. That's when everybody started to kind of notice it, if you will, 2016. And it took a lot to get it. And I, again, appreciate the fact that they do offer the parts so anyone could get what they want on their truck. That's the Platinum Pro Mark talking. But the TRD Pro Tundra owner, Mark, was like, come on, I want this to be unique. So those are some of my reasons right there, and some of the things I would definitely do a little bit different. Overall, the TRD Pro is a great success. As a little bonus here, one last thing I would have done differently is advertise way more, okay? And Toyota is the biggest automotive company in the world. And maybe it's because I'm up here in New Jersey in the Northeast. You know, everyone drives the small cars up here. But, I mean, there are trucks, don't get me wrong, but nothing like down south. I just don't see enough advertising for the Tundra in general. Being a Tundra owner that I am, talking to people who aren't Tundra owners, that's a sick truck. What is it? You know, oh, it's a Tundra. Oh, they still make those? I get that more than you would even believe. Oh, they still make those? Or the TRD Pro. You spend all that money to buy a specialty truck, and no one knows what it is. They're like, what's that? Because there was never really a lot of advertising for the TRD Pro. All the Toyota enthusiasts, me, you, we knew what it was. A lot of the truck enthusiasts, of course, knew what it was. But if you were out of that realm, you had no idea what it was. You didn't know what it meant. You didn't know if it was good or bad. You just saw a nice looking truck that was all body. That's what I used to get a lot. It was all body colored. They're like, wow, this is really nice. What is it? I'm like, oh, it's a Tundra TRD Pro. And they're like, okay. Like, I'm telling you, even other dealerships, I was going, real quick story. When I had my TRD Pro Mag Gray, I drove my friend to a Ford dealership because he was looking to get an F-150. I pull the truck up, the salesman comes out and talks to us or whatever. Big truck guy, right? So he's like, oh, what do you drive? I'm like, oh, it's right over there. It's a Tundra TRD Pro. Now, in my mind, I was like, he's going to be impressed here because nobody had him and everybody wanted him at the time. He had no clue what that was. So those are some of the things I would have done. I would have advertised more, made the truck a little bit different from the other trucks. But I am really interested in hearing what you guys think on this subject. I know there are TRD Pro owners that are totally happy with the product in the way of, like, let's just, you know, I like that it's basic inside, it's bare bones, hardcore V8, we don't want a lot of options, and you scored then, you did really good. But in closing, and this is, I saved this one for the end, of all of the stuff I just talked about with you, the number one thing in my mind, I was wrong, there is one that's very much on the top of the list that I just thought of right now. The number one thing on my mind that I would do differently on the TRD Pro Tundra trim level. Different, bigger, more aggressive tires.